Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the Minigumo, and if this one is worth trading for. I underestimated this event actually. Minigumo and Karl Johan, two ships that you were only briefly able to get, and then they were gone from the premium shop. And now they're here in this trade-in event, so are they worth it? Well, we know Karl Johan is a very fun secondary battleship. They might struggle a little bit in today's meta. Minigumo is one that I really like, actually. If you're interested in fun torpedo boats, I think this is going to be a good time for you. Primarily down to the separation of long-range and fast short-range torpedoes that both do really good damage. The long-range torps, though, are very slow, but this allows you to play in today's meta. This was one of the issues that the Karl Johan faced, of course, is that random battles is very long-range, rather campy, a little more overmatched, that kind of thing, that makes that ship struggle a little bit more. Where that ship is extremely fun in close-range game modes like Brawls and Ranked. Minigumo can just be good in all situations. This ship does have the ability to impact the game outside of many radar ranges. That's going to be the biggest issue for a lot of torpedo boats and just destroyers in general, is dealing with those long-range radars at these high tiers. For example, a Petro giving us that 12-kilometer radar. We're detected here, but I'm playing it rather safe, as you can see here. We do have island cover close by, and I'm not trying to play very close to these guys yet. That's the key here. You can play around radar because it has a cooldown. We know that that radar won't be available for around 2 minutes now. So I can get a little more aggressive and possibly swap over to some of these close-range torpedoes. The guns on this ship are really nothing to write home about. This is a pure tote boat, and I don't think you should really be building it for guns. We'll look at the build a little later, but I really had a good time playing this ship. I only have one game to show you, but my goodness, what a banger game this was. It starts off with this Petro, Colombo, and Yugumo on the flank. Very difficult to deal with. But getting into positions where you can ambush people, this ship has insane concealment. You have 5.4 kilometer detect. These close range torpedoes have a base speed of 77 knots, which I've buffed. They're well over 80. I think they're 85, 86 knots, and they're gonna do over 21,000 alpha damage each. Yes, Colombo's in a bit of trouble, you could say. And he has no idea that I was just chilling here waiting for him. Of course, that radar did reveal my location, but I could have gone anywhere. But we do manage to collect that first dev strike of the game. Don't worry, there's going to be a couple more of those. I had a lot of fun with this thing. And it's this ability to swap between these close range, amazing damage speed torps and also have the longer range impact. Now that the Colombo's been taken out, this radar, could be back up from the Petro. But I know that the Colbert is going to be behind this island, and I know that the Yugumo is a little bit further away in his smoke, so maybe we can go for a little bit of a surprise YOLO rush. Unfortunately, his hydro's up, but this Petro is a little bit concerned to push out from behind this rock, thanks to the two Wisconsins on my team here, just able to give a bit of a crossfire if he pushes too far. So that gives me the opportunity here to just full send it into him. This is not very common for torp boats, but it is possible from time to time if you pick your moment correctly. And yeah, that's a very dead Petro. In fact, I should have saved my second set of torps, and maybe he's torped at this Yugumo, who will be a problem later on. So we need to run away from him, and you better believe he's going to try and chase us down, especially with that Colbert potentially rounding the corner. So I'm going to use my smoke to give myself a bit of a curtain here to get away from them, and then move around behind this island towards the sea cap here. It's so fun, man, to be this stealthy torpedo boat, but you gotta play around this concealment and get into the right positions to use these torpedoes. Don't use the guns. Trust me, do not use these guns, man. But a very enjoyable time to play a ship like this. So I gotta say, if you're interested in trade-ins, the Karl Johan and the Minigumo are both very fun and unique ships, right? That's the key here, is these ships are not traditionally available for any resources, where I think they were both just available in the premium shop as limited time purchases, so for real money. This is a good opportunity to get this ship or the Karl. If you have a lot of in-game resources, maybe you can get yourself a trade-in of a coal ship for one of these, and then you got a bunch of coal to just buy that ship back. That is always a cool option with this event. But a really nice thing here to have these ships come back so soon. We often see limited time ships and then they don't come back for years, if ever. Dockyard ships certainly come to mind in that case. These short range torpedoes, let me emphasize, short range, actually don't reach this smoke, unfortunately. And that's a real big issue, that as you play this ship more, I think you're going to find a lot of opportunities to use these short range torpedoes, as they are just the better ones with a little more damage, but especially with that speed. But you do have to really be aware of that lacking of range. And since I'm not too comfortable with this ship, it's really my first time playing it again since the first impressions of the videos of this ship a couple months ago. I mess up a couple of times, and that could have been a difference maker in this game if I had landed a few more torps on people that were just outside the range of these torpedoes. Coming back to the B cap here, you'll notice I just totally abandoned the 8, 9, 10 flank. And you could say that's a misplay. I'm the reason those 2 Wisconsins died, but there's really not much for me to do over there. I can't go gunboat against a Yugumo, and certainly not against a Colbert. Any sort of spotting that I could have done on that flank really wouldn't have amounted to too much, especially since we probably should have just retreated from that flank anyway, since we had 2 Wisconsins there. They would have been really, really useful in dealing with all these battleships coming through here. Although that said, our torps are very valuable. I wanted to come back to where my teammates were so that I could hopefully deal with these battleships with them, and that extra focus fire and utility like a radar would help us out a ton against the Yugumo, and also that Colbert. We managed to get the cap, which is also quite important as we're very low on points actually. Risk of getting zeroed out if too many more people die. And I get spotted. And I'm so lucky to be alive here. 5.4 detect is really good. And it certainly is very nice to dev strike out a Shikishima like that. 3 dev strikes. Oh my goodness. Feels good, man. It feels real good. But a couple misplays there and nearly die because of it. The recommended build, as you're going to see towards the end of this video where we talk about the build, doesn't recommend taking Survivability Expert. And, well, it's the only reason I'm alive right now. So for me, I think that is a must pick on a lot of DDs. In fact, every DD really wants that extra HP, especially at high tier. Maybe at lower tiers, less so, as it gives HP, more HP per tier the ship is. So our Des Moines there may be able to take advantage of that smoke, not sure, but if he can kill that Wisconsin, which it looks like he can, it'll be 3 DDs versus a Colbert and a Yugumo. I'm so low that I'm really just here to torpedo and spot support. The key here is going to be that I hope our Gearing and Grozavoy stay in the north, and maybe they could use some of those islands to farm at the Colbert and at this Yugumo. And I'll just stay in the south to be a nuisance torping, that kind of thing. One of the worst things you can do as a destroyer player is get yourself locked in without an escape. And this isn't just for DDs, actually. I think it goes for any ship, any surface ship where you don't have any option to dive below the water to be immune to damage, or you don't have to risk your ship at all with airplanes sent out, right? Your ship is your connection to this game, and you do have to risk it as a destroyer, cruiser, or a battleship. And anytime you're going in front of an island where enemy ships are typically going to be getting spotting on you and charging towards you, it's typically not going to go so well. And I'm bringing this up not to necessarily flame or call out anybody, but just as a learning experience here. This enemy Yugumo is going to go in front of this island to hopefully get into the cap, but he's so low that maybe just going behind, taking your time, going behind islands is okay. And the other side of that coin is my friendly Gearing and Grozavoy, who are locked in this channel in front of this Colbert. So imagine if they had been in the north, and imagine if this Yugumo had gone through that other channel. Maybe he wouldn't have eaten these torpedoes, right? Well, these torps don't have much range. Oh, that's some pain. That's some pain right there. That is a massive weak point, is the range on these torpedoes. And are we going to get the Colbert? Nope. Nope. We are just millimeters away from killing both of these guys outright here. And unfortunately, our Gearing did go down as well. Our Grozavoy is trapped, and there's really not much I can do to help him. Maybe if he's able to reverse out, I don't know. But Colbert is just so fast, and it's going to be so difficult for us to do anything My only hope here is that I happen to spot out the Yugumo. Grozavoy might get some shots as he's going to go down to the Colbert. And maybe I can get some surprise Torps on this Colbert as he pushes out from this channel. But now the B cap's getting flipped. Yugumo is there, so I know I can go after him. But dealing with this Colbert is the tricky part. He's definitely going to take our Grozavoy out. We're the last one remaining, unfortunately. So it is difficult to play these DDs, but a lot of it comes down to positioning, and that's where you're going to learn the game very effectively by playing some DDs, but also there's a lot of skill involved here. There's a lot less RNG, I find, when you're playing a destroyer. It's more down to your skill and positioning, and you typically are going to get rewarded for that very, very well. As we already have in this match with 19 Torp hits in a Japanese DD, that's crazy, right? That's so much damage. That's the kind of Torp hit value you'd see out of like a Holland, for example. Unfortunately, I couldn't go after that Colbert, so I decided to go after the Yugumo instead, and just never ended up catching up with him, unfortunately. Pretty sad that those Torps just ranged out a couple inches from both the Yugumo and the Colbert. So they do go on to win this one. We almost brought it back, man. So close. But I love these close games, man. They're just so much more fun than blowouts. Even though we lose this one, it's just so much more interesting to have these late game scenarios where there's a lot of decision making that impacts the result of the game. And it's just more fun when the game is not decided and you have a tangible impact on that outcome. But we do lose this one, unfortunately, but still a very powerful ship and a ton of fun to play. Probably worth trading for if you have a few premiums that you're not interested in playing anymore. And since the Carl Johan and the Minigumo here are both tier 9 ships, there's a few more of those mid-tier premiums that you can trade in for these ships, unlike some of those tier 10s where you only have the option of basically other tier 10s and maybe some tier 9 special ships. But onto the build here, of course, it's just a Torp boat. It is just a Torp boat, and that's what we're going for here. In fact, I'm not taking Swift and Silence. I really wanted to, but I only had 3 points left over for Grease the Gears and Consumables Enhancements. These ones I don't really care about. I couldn't quite pick up 4 that I wasn't really willing to use. Preventive Maintenance, anytime you get shot at, your Torps are just going to get knocked out. Got to reload them. Very frustrating to deal with, so Preventive Maintenance helps us out there. Last Stand, almost mandatory on every destroyer, as well as Survivability Expert, man. That extra HP, we only have 18k here. Without it, we'd be on like 15,000 HP. I would have easily died to that Shikishima salvo for sure. And Concealment Expert, of course, 5.4 kilometer detect is awesome. You see, we only go 36.8 knots with a speed flag, so that's where Swift and Silence would be very useful. But man, I want Fill the Tubes. I want Swiftfish. I want these two so badly, as well as Adrenaline Rush. We got our Torp reload down to like 60 seconds, basically. Base, they're like 100 seconds. With this build, 76 and a half. So Adrenaline Rush giving us like 15 seconds of reload there towards the end of the game. It's super powerful skill. So you can see why it's a little difficult to take Swift and Silence. But you can manage it. You could swap some things out for it. But it's these last 3 points. Consumables Enhancements as well as Grease the Gears. Didn't really know what to put them in, so that's kind of what I sent it as. Other than that, though, upgrades, very standard. You just do the recommended, basically. Torp boat, Torp boat, Torp boat is the idea here. And 63 knots only on those long-range, but high-damaging torpedoes. So not as easy to use, but it's really nice to have that extra range. It's one of the reasons that gearing could sometimes feel like a more comfortable Torp boat than a Shimakaze at tier 10. It gets just 16 kilometer Torp range versus the 12s that typically you would see on a Shimakaze. So it allows you to play around radars more easily compared to the Shima. So this ship having 15 kilometer range, it's just so nice. And then when you do have that option to play up really close, now it's a very close range, 6.5 kilometers, you can use it still. And it's very fun. So that's going to do it for today's video on the Minigumo. I kind of underestimated this trade-in event. I kind of glanced at it and thought, oh, I'll just give a few quick thoughts on it, but then not realizing that these two ships, Minigumo and Carl Johan, were not available for very long, and this is kind of the first time they're back, so really wanted to do some slightly more updated videos, give you my impressions on both of them. Both of them very fun, unique ships, I think Carl Johan struggles in randoms a bit more because it's a brawling secondary battleship, and that's what everybody loves to farm in random battles, so a little bit difficult to use. Minigumo, on the other hand, loves to farm secondary brawling battleships. Very good at it. If they push in, they're going to die to this thing. It's really strong and comfortable to use. I think that was the word I used, just a comfy torp boat, and I stand by that. This is a very interesting ship to have as well. So thank you very much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.